The slap echoed through Lecture Hall 7, not because it was loud, not because it hurt, but because nobody in the room believed what they had just witnessed. More than 300 cadets sat frozen inside the massive academy chamber. Rows of armored students from dozens of alien species stared toward the center aisle. A human girl stood there, small, silent, motionless, and across from her stood senior combat instructor Threx Varen, the most feared combat teacher in the Orion Academy. The alien's four-fingered hand remained extended in the air, the evidence of what he had done. He had just slapped a human cadet in front of the entire class. Nobody spoke, nobody moved. The Academy had accepted human students only 6 months earlier. Most species still consider humans weak, primitive, emotionally unstable, physically average, interesting researchers, useful engineers, but certainly not warriors. That assumption was about to become the most expensive mistake in the Academy's history. The human girl's name was Maya Chen, 18 years old, first-year cadet, Earth Defense Exchange Program. And at that exact moment, she was staring directly into Threx's yellow eyes. Not with fear, not with anger, something worse, disappointment. A ripple of laughter spread through several rows. Alien cadets exchanged amused looks. A massive reptilian student snorted. She looked shocked. Another laughed. Maybe humans cry when struck. Maya slowly turned her head. Her gaze swept across the room. The laughter immediately weakened. Nobody understood why. Something about her expression felt wrong. Dangerously wrong. Instructor Threx folded his arms. "You will answer when your instructor addresses you." His voice boomed through the chamber. "You ignored my question." Maya finally spoke. Her voice remained calm. "I ignored an insult." The room reacted instantly. Several cadets gasped. Nobody spoke to Threx that way. Nobody. The instructor smiled coldly. "Then perhaps humans require discipline." A few students laughed again. Threx stepped closer, towering over the young woman. "Tell the class why your species continues to lose military engagements despite claiming superiority." Maya remained silent. Threx smirked. "There it is." He pointed toward her. "Human arrogance." The holographic displays behind him shifted. Statistics appeared. Military conflicts, species rankings, combat assessments. Several reports classified humans as mid-level combatants. More laughter followed. The Academy loved numbers. Numbers seemed objective, reliable, safe. But numbers rarely explained reality. Maya looked toward the data, then toward the class, then back toward Threx. "May I ask a question?" Threx raised an eyebrow. "You are in no position to ask questions." Maya nodded. "Then I suppose we are done here." She turned toward her seat. The instructor grabbed her shoulder. A collective gasp spread through the room. Something changed. Not visibly, not dramatically. Yet every instinct in the room suddenly screamed a warning. Maya slowly looked down at the hand resting on her shoulder. Then she looked back at Threx. For the first time, her eyes lost all warmth. The room felt colder, much colder. Even the instructor seemed briefly unsettled. Then his pride returned. "You will remain where I place you," Maya answered quietly. "No." The word struck harder than a shout. Threx tightened his grip. "Excuse me?" Maya's voice remained level. "You should remove your hand." A few cadets exchanged confused looks. Why was she warning him? Why was she speaking as if she held authority? The instructor laughed, then he pushed her backward. The entire hall fell silent. Maya recovered her balance instantly. No stumble, no panic, no fear. Only stillness. Absolute stillness. That frightened several students more than any display of anger could have. Threx turned toward the class. "Observe," he pointed at Maya. "This is why humans remain undisciplined." The instructor continued his lecture. He never noticed that every human student in the room had gone completely silent. Not embarrassed, not nervous, silent, as if waiting, as if something inevitable had already begun. Near the back row, a human exchange cadet slowly covered his face. His alien friend looked confused. "What's wrong?" The human sighed. "Oh no." "What?" "Oh no, no, no." The alien blinked. What are you talking about? The human stared toward Maya. You have no idea what just happened. Far above the academy, inside the orbital command station, another drama was unfolding. A secure transmission appeared on multiple military channels. The message originated from Earth, priority level Omega, the highest classification available. Dozens of officers immediately gathered. An admiral appeared on screen. His expression looked grim. Confirm visual identification. A technician nodded. Confirmed. The admiral closed his eyes. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then one officer whispered, "Please tell me that isn't Cadet Maya Chen." The technician swallowed. "It is." The room became silent. Someone muttered a curse. Another officer leaned back in disbelief. Who touched her? Back inside the academy, class finally ended. Students flooded into the corridors. Rumors spread immediately. Everyone discussed the slap. Everyone expected Maya to report the instructor, or challenge him legally, or complain. Instead, she simply walked away. That should have ended the story. It did not, because later that evening, 8 senior cadets followed her. They had watched the lecture, they had laughed, and now they wanted entertainment. The leader was a giant armored alien named Korvac, third-year combat specialist, academy champion, known bully, known troublemaker, known idiot, though nobody had informed him of the final detail. The group cornered Maya inside an empty training corridor. Red emergency lights reflected across steel walls. Korvac smiled. "You embarrassed our instructor." Maya continued walking. The aliens blocked her path. Another senior laughed. "Humans really are tiny." Korvac stepped forward. "You should apologize." Maya looked around. 8 opponents, 1 exit. No witnesses, no cameras. Interesting, very interesting. She sighed. "I have somewhere to be." The seniors laughed. One reached toward her shoulder. The same mistake twice in one day. Maya's eyes briefly closed. When they opened again, something ancient seemed to stare back, something that did not belong inside a frightened first-year cadet, something forged by generations living on a death world. Earth, the most misunderstood planet in the known galaxy. Korvac never noticed, neither did his friends. And that was unfortunate, because exactly 17 seconds later, every single one of them would regret being born. The corridor lights flickered. Emergency systems activated. Massive blast doors began descending. An academy lockdown had started. The wrong section had been sealed. And 8 alien seniors suddenly found themselves trapped inside a corridor with one very patient human. Maya slowly looked toward the closing doors, then toward the bullies. For the first time all day, she smiled. A small smile. A terrifying smile. The smile of someone who had just realized that nobody was coming to interrupt what happened next. Korvac felt a strange chill run through his spine. Instinct, pure instinct, the kind that kept species alive. For the first time, his confidence disappeared, and deep inside his mind, a single thought appeared. Maybe the instructor should never have touched her. The smile on Maya Chen's face lasted less than a second, but every alien in the corridor saw it, and every one of them felt the same thing. Fear. They did not understand why. They outnumbered her, 8 against 1. They were larger, stronger, older, more experienced. Everything about the situation suggested they held the advantage, yet somehow it felt like the opposite. The emergency blast doors slammed shut behind them with a thunderous boom. The corridors sealed completely. Red warning lights flashed across metallic walls. An automated voice echoed overhead. Emergency lockdown in progress. Estimated duration, 32 minutes. Korvac's smile weakened. 32 minutes. Trapped, with her. Maya calmly adjusted the sleeve of her academy uniform. Then she looked at the nearest exit. Sealed. Good. That meant nobody would interrupt. One of the senior cadets laughed nervously. "You think you're dangerous?" Maya tilted her head. "No." The answer confused them. "No?" She shrugged. "I think you're about to make a mistake." Several aliens burst into laughter. Korvac stepped forward. I think humans tell themselves stories. Maya sighed. Probably. The giant alien cracked his knuckles. Then let's see what happens when reality arrives. He swung first, fast. Much faster than most academy students could react. The punch traveled directly toward Maya's face. The watching seniors smiled. Then their smiles disappeared, because Maya was no longer standing there. The punch hit empty air. Korvac blinked. Where? Pain exploded through his leg. The human girl had moved, not backward, forward. She drove her shoulder into the side of his knee. A precise strike, a calculated strike, a devastating strike. The giant alien crashed sideways. The entire corridor shook. Silence. Nobody moved. Nobody understood what had happened. Korvac stared upward from the floor, stunned. The Academy champion had just been dropped in less than 2 seconds. Maya stepped back. Please stop. One cadet laughed nervously. That was lucky. Maya looked at him. No, the alien suddenly wished he had stayed silent. 3 more seniors charged together. A common mistake. Multiple attackers often assume numbers created an advantage. On Earth, that assumption had been disproven thousands of years ago. The first attacker lunged. Maya redirected his momentum. He slammed into the second cadet. Both crashed into the corridor wall. Before they recovered, the third attacker arrived. Maya caught his wrist. Twisted. The alien yelped. Not broken, not permanently injured, just neutralized. The cadet collapsed to his knees. 4 down. 4 are still standing. The entire fight had lasted less than 15 seconds. Korvac finally stood. His expression had changed. The arrogance was gone. Now he looked confused. And confusion soon became a concern. Who are you? Maya smiled slightly. A student. No, Korvac shook his head. No student fights like that. Maya looked away for a moment. Memories surfaced. Training facilities. Military instructors. Gravity chambers. Survival courses. Pain. Failure. Improvement. Earth. A death world did not create warriors intentionally. It created them naturally. Every child born there spent years adapting to conditions that would terrify most species. Gravity, weather, disease, predators, competition, risk. Humans called it life. The galaxy called it impossible. Back inside the Academy Command Center, dozens of instructors stared at security feeds. Shock spread through the room. Senior Instructor Threx stood among them, watching, silent. The screen displayed Korvac's group surrounding Maya, then being systematically dismantled. One instructor whispered, "She's holding back." Another nodded, massively. Threx frowned. "What do you mean?" The instructor pointed toward the screen. "Look closely." The footage zoomed in. Every strike, every movement, every reaction. Perfect control, perfect precision. No wasted energy. No unnecessary violence, no panic, no emotion. A combat specialist finally spoke. "This isn't academy-level training." The room became silent. The specialist continued. "This is military training." Several instructors exchanged uneasy looks. Military? A first-year cadet? That made no sense. Then another file appeared on the screen. Restricted. Earth Defense Command. Clearance override. The academy director himself entered the room. His face looked pale, very pale. Everybody stopped talking. Silence followed instantly. The director stared at Maya's file. Then he looked toward Threx. The senior instructor suddenly felt uncomfortable. "Sir?" The director slowly lowered the tablet. "Do you know who she is?" Threx folded his arms. "A human cadet." The director looked horrified. "No." He swallowed. "She is Cadet Maya Chen." Nobody understood. The director continued. "The daughter of General Marcus Chen." The room froze. Several instructors recognized the name immediately. One nearly dropped his datapad. General Marcus Chen. The man is known across multiple sectors. The commander who had led humanity through 3 interstellar conflicts. The officer who had defeated fleets with fewer resources and impossible odds. A legend. A nightmare. Depending on which side of the war someone remembered, Threx suddenly felt cold, very cold. The director wasn't finished. She also completed Earth's advanced survival program. The combat specialist's eyes widened. No. The director nodded. Yes. The room fell silent. Every military species knew about that program. Most considered it insanity. The graduation rate was less than 10%. Many professional soldiers failed. Children were never accepted. Except apparently, Maya Chen. Back inside the corridor, the fight continued. Or rather, the lesson continued. Korvac charged again. This time he was careful, smarter, more cautious. He attacked with strategy. Maya surrender? The cadet nodded rapidly. Yes. She looked genuinely surprised. Why? The alien stared at her. Because you're winning. Maya considered that answer. Then she laughed, actually laughed. The sound stunned everyone. The terrifying human warrior suddenly looked like an ordinary teenager again. You should have done that earlier. Nobody argued. Several minutes later, the lockdown ended. Massive doors slowly opened. Security teams rushed forward. Weapons ready. Medical crews followed. Instructors followed behind them, including senior instructor Threx. The corridor became silent. 8 battered senior cadets sat against the wall, bruised, embarrassed, defeated. And at the center, Maya calmly sat on a bench, reading from a datapad, as if nothing unusual had happened. One security officer whispered, "How many attackers were there?" A medic answered, 8. The officer looked toward Maya. Against her? The medic nodded. The officer immediately stopped asking questions. Thrax slowly approached. Maya looked up. Their eyes met. For several seconds, nobody spoke. The entire corridor watched. Finally, Thrax cleared his throat. The proud instructor suddenly seemed much older, much smaller. "I owe you an apology." Shock spread through the crowd. Nobody had ever heard those words from him, ever. Maya simply waited. The instructor continued. "My actions today were unacceptable." Silence. Absolute silence. 300 students had gathered nearby. Every one of them is listening. Threx lowered his head, a gesture almost nobody thought possible. "I was wrong." The words echoed through the corridor. The academy champions stared in disbelief. The instructors stared in disbelief. Even the security officers looked shocked. Maya studied him quietly. Then she stood. The crowd leaned forward, waiting, wondering. What would she do? Would she humiliate him? Expose him? Demand punishment? Revenge? Instead, Maya extended her hand, the same way she had extended mercy to every cadet she defeated. Threx looked surprised, then he slowly shook her hand. The crowd erupted, not with laughter, not with mockery, with applause. For the first time since humanity joined the academy, every species present understood something important. Humans were not respected because they were stronger. Humans were respected because they possessed strength and chose control. Days later, the story had spread across the academy, then across nearby systems, then across the entire sector. The recording became famous. Students replayed it endlessly, not because of the fight, but because of what happened afterward. A powerful instructor admitted he was wrong. A human cadet could have humiliated him. Instead, she showed restraint, respect, character, and somehow, that impressed the galaxy more than the combat itself. 1 week later, Maya entered Lecture Hall 7 again. The same classroom, the same seats, the same students. Except this time, nobody laughed, nobody whispered, nobody underestimated her. As she walked down the aisle, alien cadets moved aside respectfully. Several nodded greetings. Others offered smiles. Korvac himself stood near the entrance. His bruises had mostly healed. When Maya approached, the former bully straightened, then offered a respectful salute. The entire classroom watched. Maya returned the salute. A simple gesture. Yet it symbolized everything that had changed. The bell sounded. Class began. Instructor Threx entered. The room immediately became silent. The instructor activated the holographic display. Then he looked toward the students. His gaze stopped briefly on Maya. A small smile appeared. "Today's lesson," he paused, "is about dangerous assumptions." The classroom laughed, even Maya. And for the first time since humanity arrived at Orion Academy, the lesson wasn't about why humans were weak. It was about why the galaxy should never underestimate them again. Because one careless slap had taught an entire academy a painful lesson, and the galaxy would remember it for a very long time. Subscribe to my channel and watch more sci-fi stories.